What's up guys, hope you're having a good day. In this video we're going to be going back and looking at our profit and loss from last weekend's card, UFC Fight Night Makhachev versus Moises. We're going to be going through all our bets to see what we did well and what we didn't do so well and just review our performance. Now the week before that, UFC 264, it was a massive night for us. It was one of our biggest winning nights of the year so far, and for the performance review profit and loss video for that event, I came through rocking the Kylo Ren helmet. A few of you guys in my live betting group call me Supreme Leader, and I thought I'd have a little bit of fun by wearing the Kylo helmet. So obviously different vibes this week, even though we did do good on live betting on the Makhachev versus Moises card, which we'll get into in a little bit. Obviously took a bit of a black eye on Stevens, so I thought it'd be more appropriate, rather than cracking out the Kylo Ren helmet, we'll crack out the sunglasses today, just to cover up that little black eye that the old Jeremy Stevens loss gave us. But there is another reason I thought the sunglasses would be pretty appropriate this week. Obviously, many of you will know that are in my community. This week I'm going to be going on holiday/vacation. Been talking about this for a few months now, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be travelling up to North Wales, so I live in the South Wales. It's very difficult in the UK at the moment to travel to different countries. It's kind of hard to keep up on like all the different rules and shit, but obviously if you do travel to different countries, I think there's like a risk that when you come back you have to like quarantine in a hotel and shit for some amount of time. I don't know, I could be completely wrong. I don't really watch the news, can't keep up to date with what's going on, but the whole international travel thing with COVID seems pretty complicated right now. So this year I thought, you know what, we'll just take a little break, go up to North Wales, about a 4-hour drive from where I live, and just chill out there with the family for a bit. So really looking forward to it. We drive up tomorrow morning, and I really like North Wales, man. I used to go there every year as a kid. It's got like a bit of everything. You can see here Snowdonia National Park. I mean, this could be any fucking national park for I know. It's just a fucking picture on Google, but I assume it's Snowdonia. So Snowdonia National Park looks pretty fucking cool. You know, you got some nice beaches and stuff. There's no beach there. There's lots of rocks. But yeah, if we scroll down a bit, you got like the mountains. You got the beaches. You've also got loads of history. There's fucking tons of castles in North Wales because, well, Wales was getting fucking invaded non-stop throughout our history. Everyone wanted to fuck Wales up. So yeah, there's loads of castles, loads of history. It's a beautiful part of the world. So yeah, looking forward to going there. So I'm going from Monday to Friday next week, which means I won't be online very much. And I've been working really hard over the last week or so to put a huge dent in this TJ Dillashaw Corey Sandhagen card, so that I don't have to do that much research while I'm away. There's two reasons for that. The first reason being, obviously, you know, it's a vacation, it's a holiday, so I want to spend as much time relaxing with my family as I can. But then the second reason being, where we're going, you could probably see. You could probably see even like this little town here. Where we're going is quite remote. Like there really isn't that much around. Like there's not a major city for like a couple hundred miles, I think, from where I'm staying. The nearest city would probably be Liverpool. Might not be a couple hundred miles, might be 100 miles, but anyway, it's fucking far. There's like nowhere, you know, there's nowhere close to where we're staying in terms of major cities or anything. So I'm worried that the internet connection there like won't be great. We're staying in a log cabin, so I don't think there's internet in the actual log cabin. So I've got obviously my mobile modem. I've got a couple of these from like different network providers which I'll be taking. I can also obviously tether the mobile phone connection. I actually lost my phone, that's brilliant. But obviously we can tail a mobile connection from my mobile phone. So I've got a few different internet connections to kind of use when I'm there, but can't guarantee that like network coverage is going to be very good. So what I didn't want to do is kind of go up to North Wales and then, you know, have tons of fights to research and not be able to upload breakdown videos to the website because my internet connection is not strong enough. So the way I've basically played it is I've researched the majority of fights on the Dillashaw versus Sandhagen card, and I'm going to be uploading about, I would say, I'm going to be uploading, say, breakdown videos for 60 to 70% of the fights on this card before I travel. And then I'll do my best to upload videos while I'm there. Although the downside is, obviously, I'm not going to be able to take my PC. In order to kind of do this setup where you see like my desktop and stuff, kind of need a dual monitor display, which I'm not going to have with me. So I think what I might do, I've tried to research all the fights that I think people are going to be really interested in this week. You know, I've had to leave a couple out. I can't get them all in. But what I'm going to do, upload a load of breakdown videos to my website this week, and then when I get back on Friday night, I'll upload breakdown videos for the rest of the fights on Friday night or Saturday morning. From fights that I'll research next week when I'm away. Now, in terms of YouTube videos, I don't really know how I'm going to play it, because it's going to be very difficult for me to upload a YouTube video this week. I think what I'm going to do is, once I'm done researching the main event, the main card for this week, I think what I'll do is maybe just do like a live stream from my mobile phone, where I'll just like grab a beer, sit on a beach somewhere or in the middle of a fucking forest, and I'll kind of just break it down again without any background or anything like that. I'll do my best to do that for you guys on YouTube. But yeah, man, taking a break, having a nice little 4 to 5 day trip. Like I say, this won't interfere with the content you usually receive from me. If you remember my website, there won't be as many live streams. Obviously, there won't be any live streams this week, but you'll still have breakdown videos for every single fight this week on the website that will be published. On top of that, obviously, there'll be bets, as usual, shared to the site. And, yeah, business as usual, really. And I'll be back for live betting on Saturday. So, no disruption to service at all. Things will just be done a little bit different, and I won't be online as much as usual. And it feels good to take a break, man. Obviously, we've been working hard over the last couple of years. It's been like I haven't had a break with my family. We haven't been away since we went to Singapore and Bali back in August 2019. So yeah, that's almost 2 years ago now. So it'll be nice to get away with my family, my son. My mum's coming with us, my sister's coming with us, my cousin and her children are coming with us. It's going to be really nice, man. And yeah, just good to have a little bit of chill time. Like I say, I'm not really going to have much time to relax, because I'm still going to have to be researching fights and shit like that. But it will just be good to get away, have some different surroundings for a bit. So, won't see you guys online too much next week. But we've worked hard. We've deserved this break. 2021 has been phenomenal for us so far. Obviously, we're going to take a look at the profitability charts in a minute. So we've earned it, man. We've earned a little bit of a break. Do you know what I mean? And it's difficult to kind of plan breaks when on weeks where there's no UFC, just because obviously you've got to book trips quite far in advance, and the UFC schedule only kind of gets released, 2 months before an event actually takes place. So it's kind of tricky to book travel. So hopefully you guys won't begrudge me. 4 or 5 days break. We've been working hard over the last few years, man, and we've been doing really, really well. I think we've earned it. Okay, so now let's get into the part of the video where we review our bets from last week. So let's start off by taking a look at live betting. Tick that one off the list first of all. So no, that's the wrong page. Just go to results. So obviously, like I say in all these profit and loss videos, I don't like sharing the exact live bets that we had, just because we do have we do have something very special in live betting, right? You look at this profitability chart. It's a very impressive profitability chart. We do really well. It's a big cash cow for us, and bookies are always looking to shut us down and make life difficult for us. We've had bookies infiltrate the group in the past, and so if I kind of do say what bets we kind of placed, it may be difficult, or it may make it easier for bookies to kind of work out people that are in our group and then shut their accounts down. So we won't go into specifics of what bets we have in live betting, but it was a pretty good night for us in live betting. We went 2-1 for an overall profit of 1.5 units. So it's turning out to be, July is turning into a pretty big month for us for live betting. There's still 2 events still to come. Saturday's event between Sandhagen and Dillashaw looks really, really good for live betting, and we're already up, over 6.5 units of profit in July on the last 2 events. So, live betting's been absolutely phenomenal for us this month. It's a big month for us in live betting, and I'm sure it's going to get even better because there's absolutely no reason why we can't go on and bank a profit in the next 2 events as well. Obviously, we've got at the top of the page, you guys know that our profitability charts, they only get updated once a month. They get updated at the end of every month just to kind of reduce the workload. Shout out to you, Hilty. Hilty is a guy that helps me out by keeping these results pages up to date. So Hilty comes in, updates these results once a month. So the live in-play betting profitability chart isn't updated to reflect this month's profits yet. You can see that it goes up to June 2021. What's very nice is we are at a bit of a milestone for live betting, because you can see here in June we were sat at approximately 498 units of profit, and our profits this month take us beyond that to making over 500 units of profit on live betting now. So big milestone for us, and as long as nothing crazy happens over the next 2 events, I'm pretty sure July is going to turn out to be a massive month for live betting, and a month where we hit a really, really big milestone, really big landmark that we've got to give ourselves a pat on the back for. So live betting's gone great. We went 2-1 last weekend. I will also say that the loss we took was a little bit unlucky. It's one of those bets where I just do not regret it at all, and I absolutely loved the losing bet from last week. I won't say who it was, but the probability of the fight ending like that at the time it ended, it was like a really, really, really low probability outcome. And I think if that fight had gone the distance, we would have stood a really good chance of our guy winning a decision. So we got a little bit unlucky. If you're in the live betting group, you'll kind of be able to interpret what I'm saying here. But yeah, very, very close to 3-0 on the night. It wasn't to be, but we'll take 2-1 for a unit and a half of profit all day long. Now let's move on to looking at the pre-fight bets. So if we start off by taking a look, actually, if we go to pre-fight bets and we scroll all the way down to the loose bets, we can see that we only had 1 bet last weekend. It was a pretty difficult card for betting, right? Where there were only, with the cancellation to the Anderson Dos Santos and Miles Johns fight, there were obviously only 10 fights on the card, and I think 8 of the 10 fights featured heavy favourites. So, on that type of card, your only real options from a betting point of view are to obviously, parlay maybe a couple, 2 or 3 of the big favourites together, or to try and scout for, really good value underdogs, really good live underdogs. And going through the card last weekend, there weren't really that many underdogs who I gave a realistic chance of winning. It was one of those cards where most of the big favourites were flawed enough to make it dangerous to bet on them at, big favourite odds. And then, for the underdogs, most of the underdogs didn't really show me enough to take a shot on them. But Jeremy Stephens did. And I think he was an absolutely phenomenal bet. And I still think he's a phenomenal bet. And, with the way that the fight ended, if Stephens and Gamrot were fighting this weekend again, if I could get Stephens at these odds, I'd bet Stephens again. It's one of those bets where, when you consider the implied probabilities and all the information we had available to us going into the fight, how do you not give Stephens a better than 30% chance of winning that? It gave us a really, really good risk to reward ratio, and it's just a shame that we didn't kind of see the fight play out. It was one of those fights where, we know Stephens is a slow starter. I just think he got caught cold and put in a really, really bad position early on. Gamrot did a really, really good job of, catching Stephens cold, taking him down early, pouncing on a bad position and getting the submission win. but it was quite a low probability outcome. I'm not going to say it's unlucky or anything like that. Gamrot's a very talented fighter, and we know that Stephens has weaknesses on the ground, but it was quite a low probability outcome when you consider the history of both guys. So if we take a look at Jeremy Stephens' record, and we also bring up Mateusz Gamrot's record, we can see that Mateusz Gamrot is not really a submission guy. He's much more of a guy that likes to take you down and chip away at you on the ground with ground and pound. So if you look at his record, if you kind of ignore where it says grappling bout here and just actually focus on his MMA fights, we can see that he hasn't submitted anyone since he fought Gregor Zulakowski back in 2018. And prior to that, he hadn't submitted anyone since 2016. So he'd only had 2 wins by submission in sort of like the last 5 years. And the guys that he submitted were quite low-level fighters. On top of that, when you look at Jeremy Stephens' record, it's very, very, very difficult to submit Jeremy Stephens. He's had almost 50 pro fights, and we can see that he hasn't been submitted for a very, 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 very long time. So the last time that Jeremy Stephens was submitted was all the way back in 2009 by Joe Lauzon. So, you know, Stephens hasn't been submitted for over 10 years. If submission defense is very good, he's usually, you know, very, very difficult to hold down on the ground. Gamrot, not really a high-level submission guy, favours control and ground and pound over submissions. It was a little bit unlucky. You know, prior to Saturday night, in almost 50 pro fights, Jeremy Stephens had only been submitted 2 times. You know, once, like we said, against Joe Lauzon, and ironically in his UFC debut against Dean Thomas. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, man. And, you know, whenever you're betting on MMA, you got to expect some of the guys you bet on to get knocked out, some of them to get submitted. Ghoul, who is one of my VIP members, actually brought up a really, really good point, though. Because when we studied Jeremy Stephens, obviously we've done so much fight research for this. And this is one thing that does make a loss like this quite disappointing. We obviously spent, you know, 2 hours researching this fight. You know, I'd spent, like, another 2 hours producing, you know, video breakdowns this matchup. I think we did a 45-minute YouTube breakdown, and the more detailed breakdown video that was available on my website was 1 hour and 10 minutes long. So we put all this work in to really learning Jeremy Stephens' strengths and weaknesses inside and out. We put so much time into learning Mateusz Gamrot's strengths and weaknesses inside out. And then, you know, Mateusz Gamrot comes out, gets a takedown, gets a quick submission before Stephens has time to kind of warm up and settle into the fight. Very, very disappointing outcome. You put all that work in. You kind of wish that, you know, you just wish that the fight would have kind of played out to see what would have happened, you know. But that's the way it goes. But I was going to say, Ghoul, one of our VIP members, brought up a really good point in the VIP chat room after the fight. Because when we were researching Jeremy Stephens, we noticed that one of the ways that, or the way that he often manages to work his way back up to his feet when he does get taken down, is when he gets taken down, he'll start to attack the Kimura off his back, and then he'll use the Kimura to create a scramble to get to his knees and then stand back up. What's very, very interesting is that he did exactly the same thing against Mateusz Gamrot. So as soon as Gamrot took Stephens down, Stephens started fishing for the Kimura straight away. And that is actually what led to Gamrot jumping on his own Kimura and getting the submission. So we know Gamrot trains at American Top Team, which is one of the best MMA gyms in the world. You know, Gamrot's also a smart, charismatic guy. You know, Gore brought up the really good point that I wonder if Gamrot and his team did his homework on Stephens, and they knew that as soon as Gamrot were to take Stephens down, Stephens would likely start fishing for that Kimura to try and either hit a reversal or create a scramble to be able to pop back up to his feet. And I wonder if Gamrot and his team kind of expected that and, you know, worked out some kind of strategy where they would be able to catch Stephens in a Kimura while he was distracted attacking Gamrot with a Kimura. This kind of stuff is so interesting to me. Whenever you get to the highest level of any sport, it's a game of inches. And I would love to be able to talk to Gamrot or his coaches to see if they'd done their homework on Stevens and they'd picked out that specific weakness that they could capitalize on. It would be absolutely genius if they did, and that's the kind of shit I geek out about and get crazy about, because like I say, Stevens only been submitted twice in like 50 pro fights, and Gamrot not really a dangerous submission guy. So I'll give Gamrot the benefit of the doubt there and say it was a very, very smart performance from him, and he capitalised on an opening that Stevens was very likely to give him based on his past performances. You guys know me, man. I'm a bit of a geek. I love to go deep on the fight footage. I spend tens and tens of hours every week studying fight footage. And like I say, that was one thing I did pick out from Stevens in his past fights, and kind of amazing then to see Gamrot go out there, capitalise on it and make Stevens pay. It's why pre-fight betting can be so difficult, right? Because it's kind of like pre-fight betting is kind of like a game of poker where both fighters can see the other's hands. You know, Jeremy Stevens can go look at all of Mateusz Gamrot's past fights, work out his strengths and weaknesses, and then formulate a game plan to go out there and exploit Mateusz Gamrot's strengths and weaknesses. And Gamrot can do exactly the same thing. So pre-fight betting can be tricky because you never know which fighter is going to come in with the smartest, most strategic game plan to exploit the other's weaknesses. Like I always say, all we can do is put our money in strong positions and hope for the best. I do feel Stevens was a very strong position, is not a bet I regret in the slightest. At an implied probability of 30%, you've got to give Stevens more respect than that when you consider how average Gamrot has looked in his past fights. But obviously this guy's hype levels have gone to the moon now. And the only silver lining is obviously we'll be able to keep an eye on Gamrot and hopefully profit either by betting on him or against him further down the line. But if you are one of these guys that really focuses a lot on win-loss records, if you're very impressed, you know, by a win-loss record of 19-1, don't want to take anything away from Gamrot. It's a great record to put together. But I will say this guy's hype is a little out of hand for me. And I will say that even though 19-1 looks very impressive on paper, like, do your own research on this guy and check him out, because I promise you he is nowhere near as good as a lot of people online are kind of making him out to be. And maybe I will eat my words, but I often don't, right? Over the years, you know, if you guys have been consuming my content for a long time, you know, we've had guys over the years reach these crazy levels of hype. Right from the beginning, I've said, look, guys, pump the brakes a little bit. I understand they've got impressive records, but their actual skills and performances in the cage don't reflect, you know, the level of hype on this particular fighter. You know, examples we can think of, Uzdemir, right? Everyone thought he was going to be the next champion. Right from day one, I was like, hang on a little bit, this guy's not great. Same with Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, probably the best example. There was one point where people were talking about, you know, Johnny Walker being the guy that dethroned John Jones, and I'm like, slow down a little bit. Have you seen how bad this guy is on the ground? I will definitely give you guys the same caution with Gamrot. Like, he's all right. Like, he's good. There's nothing wrong with Gamrot. He's not a low-level guy or anything like that. But he's definitely not what people think he is. If you're looking for, you know, a really, really skilled, talented grappler in the lightweight division to hype up, go take a look at Arman Tazrukian or Gregor Gillespie instead. Those two guys are at a much higher level when it comes to grappling than Gamrot. Like I say, take nothing away from Gamrot, but he's not as good as people think he is. And a quick win over Jeremy Stevens, it doesn't change that for me. And since we don't really have that many bets to talk about this week, I thought that we could kind of explore probability theory a little bit, because I like to, you know, share like betting theories with you guys and talk about betting on quite a deep level. And I've just got something interesting that we could maybe discuss. Let me know in the comments what you think about this theory. But it's basically the theory that if you look at sports betting, a lot of people that bet on sports, or a lot of people that are into sports, they take wins and losses like super literally. And what I mean by that is, now that Stevens has lost to Mateusz Gamrot, people are saying Stevens is done, right? He's a bum. He's on a decline. He's on a 5-fight losing streak. All these words we've seen. And Gamrot, now that he's 19-1, is, you know, potentially going to give guys like Michael Chandler or Islam Makhachev trouble. And I've seen guys online saying Gamrot's a future title contender. I'm like, okay. What's very interesting to me is how moments in sports can lead to really, really extreme opinions when not a lot has actually happened. So, because we don't have many bets to review this week, I thought what we could do is talk a little bit about betting theory or probability theory, because I think that a lot of people that come into sports betting are at a really big disadvantage, because sports betting is kind of the first bit of exposure that they have to gambling. Whereas if you come from maybe a poker background, you have a way better understanding of how probability theory works and how to assess whether you're getting a good deal for your money or you're putting your money into a situation where you're getting a good risk to reward ratio. So we've obviously bet on, you know, a really good value underdog last week on Jeremy Stephens that has lost, but we've also bet on some really good value underdogs recently that have won. So I just want to kind of explore probability theory a little bit to kind of give you guys something to think about, to maybe look at MMA through a different lens. Because what I find about sports betting, this is not just specific to MMA, but I do find that the people are very, very results orientated. In terms of a win means a lot and a loss means a lot, and people don't put as much weight into what actually happened behind that win or loss. You know, realistically, if we're being logically here, if we're being logical, you look at the fight between Jeremy Stephens and Mateusz Gamrot. Not a lot happened. You know, Gamrot took Stephens down early, caught Stephens in a bad position before he had an opportunity to react to it, and Stephens got submitted. And now the conclusions that people will jump to after that fight is Stephens is done. He's on a 5-fight losing streak. You know, he's way past his best. Throw him on the scrap heap. He's done. When really, if you look at Stephens' past performance, he hasn't shown any signs of decline. And while a 5-fight losing streak doesn't look great, again, like we were saying last week, if Gamrot fought, you know, Zabit, Aldo, Keita, and Yair Rodriguez, he could very well be on a 4-fight losing streak too. And now Gamrot has got a win over Stephens, and, you know, some people are saying this guy's a future title contender. But for me, a very interesting discussion is around what happens if, instead of Gamrot taking Stephens down and submitting him very quickly, what happens if Gamrot would have shot that takedown, walked onto a big uppercut from Stephens, and got knocked out in 30 seconds? You know, both outcomes were pretty likely, right? Or both outcomes are pretty realistic. Let's use the word realistic, not likely. Both outcomes were realistic. We know Stephens has got big power in his hands. We know Gamrot's entries aren't the cleanest. And we also know that Stephens' weaknesses are on the ground, right? That goes without saying. So both these things can happen. What's very interesting is when you have a winning or a losing bet, you will have people that come out and they'll say, "Ha, you were wrong. You got the Stephens fight completely wrong. And how could you ever bet Stephens? You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You got completely wrong. Gamrot won easily." And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting way of looking at things. But then, if Stephens would have landed the uppercut on Gamrot and knocked him out, would I have been right? Like, consider what that means about being right or wrong. Let's explore some other examples, and maybe I'll start to make more sense to you. So, last weekend, we bet on Dustin Poirier to beat Conor McGregor. Even money odds range. Felt it was a great risk to reward ratio on Poirier, and Poirier came through for us in a big way and won. Was I right to bet Poirier? Like, I don't think I was. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels very, very strange to me to say that we were right to bet Poirier. We got that right. Because, throughout Poirier's career, we've seen him get dinged, we've seen him get wobbled a lot. And even just before Conor McGregor broke his leg, they got into like that big exchange where they both almost landed a big power shot on each other. Like, if Conor would have just landed that left hand clean in that exchange, maybe he could have knocked Poirier out. So, for me, it feels like a little bit weird to say, oh, I was right on Poirier, because on another night in a different universe, cards could have fallen differently and, Conor could have caught him with something big. You look at the Kennedy and Chukwue win. We bet Chukwue even money. Had Chukwue not knocked Danilo Marquez out at the end of that second round, he could very easily have lost the decision there. And so, were we right to bet Kennedy and Chukwue? Or was that wrong because he almost lost? Like, he won. If we're really going to focus on the results on paper, we were right. Like, we're so smart. But, if things would have gone slightly differently, if he hadn't got the finish at the end of the second round, beginning of the third round, we could have taken an L there. We can go even further. Brandon Moreno, right? We bet Brandon Moreno very recently in a similar odds range to Jeremy Stephens. He came through for us in a big way. Nice big underdog for us on Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno did great, but we know Davison Figueiredo is a guy, with major power. If Davison Figueiredo would have come out, caught Moreno with a big shot and knocked him out early, were we wrong to bet Brandon Moreno? Would we be wrong? I would probably take some abuse from people online, right? There would probably be people like, how could you bet Moreno? You're an idiot. Figueiredo's so powerful. Figueiredo, caused him a lot of problems in the first fight. Like, how could you bet Moreno? You're an idiot. You're wrong. And I just find this mindset, like, really flawed, because we know that on any given night, anything can happen. Okay? And there are multiple different ways a fight could end. And so looking at MMA and looking at sports betting through the lens of you are right or wrong, I find this just a really flawed way of approaching the sport. And there's a much better way to approach the sport. And like I say, I think that a lot of this mindset comes from, unfortunately, people's first exposure to gambling being through sports betting. Now, if you come from a poker background, the whole concept of being right or wrong is quite frankly a silly one. Because if you play poker, you'll know that, if you just sit down and play poker for a day, you'll know that multiple times in a day, you will have your money in extremely favorable positions, right? You will have your money in situations where, when the money goes into the pot, you've got an 80% chance of winning your opponent, or a 70% chance of beating your opponent's hand when the money goes in. And you'll know multiple times a day you'll lose hands like that. What I see in sports betting is if you cap a fighter in the 70 to 80% odds range, people will be like, oh my god, there's no way they can lose. There's absolutely no way they can lose. It's too big of a percentage, not happening. And if that fighter loses, you're completely wrong. You got the fight totally wrong. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. But if you play poker, you'll know that, very often you'll go all in pre-flop with ace-king. Someone will call you with ace-jack, ace-queen. You've got around a 70% chance of beating that hand, and you'll get busted multiple times in a day. But if we're taking the attitude towards poker that most people do in sports betting, would you say that someone going all in pre-flop with ace-king against ace-queen or ace-jack was wrong? Like, if they lose their hand. Like, say someone calls... Or say someone pushes all in pre-flop with ace-king. Someone calls with ace-queen. They've got a 65 to 70% chance of beating ace-queen pre-flop. But they actually lose their hand. Would you, go, you were wrong? Like, you shouldn't have done that. It was, a terrible bet. Like, you wouldn't, would you? Because we know statistically, ace-king, pre-flop, 65, 70% chance of beating ace-queen. And so there's a really, long-winded way of me saying, try not to focus too much on the result of fights or sporting events. Instead, focus on the research, putting your money in strong positions based on all the information that you have available, and then not sweating the outcome too much. What I mean by that is, once you have done your homework and you're confident you've done your homework, be at peace with the decision you've made and have conviction in your decision. Because it's like in poker, right? Once the money's gone in the pot, you've got absolutely no control over the outcome. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a 90% chance of winning the hand, a 95% chance of winning the hand. The cards are going to fall wherever they fall, and you really have no control over it. So try to take that same approach to sports betting. You know, in the context of Jeremy Stephens versus Mateusz Gamrot bet, we have no idea what would have happened if Stephens could have just, you know, defended that Kimura position and worked his way back up to his feet. We have absolutely no idea. He could have stood up and knocked Gamrot out. Gamrot could have taken him back down, wet blanketed him, and dominated him for 3 rounds. The research we did suggest that was pretty unlikely, but we have no idea. But what we do know, based on the pre-fight research, Stephens had a better than 70% chance of winning. So when you go out there, a better than 30% chance of winning, right? The implied probability on his odds are 3.0, around about 30%. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you do bet on a fighter and they go out there and they underperform, or they suffer a really bad knockout early in the fight, or, you know, they get caught in a bad position like Stephens and submitted, don't sweat it too much, man. Like, if you've done your homework, have conviction in your decision, because ultimately, you look at this profitability chart. You know, it's a beautiful profitability chart, and we know that the only way that you produce a profitability chart like this is by consistently putting your money in strong positions, and over the long term you grind out a profit. So I just wanted to kind of go over that, because when Stephens lost on Saturday night, I see a few doomers in the VIP chat room, like, oh my god, I can't believe he lost, you know, I can't believe that happened, blah blah blah. And it's kind of like, you know, it's a cage fight to the death. You're going to see crazy things happen. You're going to see guys get knocked out. You're going to see guys get injured. You're going to see guys, you know, crippled by performance anxiety that underperform. You're also going to see guys like Gamrot that have done their homework on Stephens and formulate a game plan to exploit a particular weakness or a particular thing that their opponent's likely to do. So you're going to take losses, but this is a volume game. You know what I mean? And the goal is to win a lot more than you lose, and we do. And the most important thing in all of this is that we consistently put our money in strong positions. And the way we know we put money in strong positions is because of the work that we put in, right? We didn't just go on Wikipedia, scan through win-loss records and pluck a bet out of Jeremy Stephens from thin air. We did, 2 hours of research on that fight. Produced 2 hours of video content, went into extreme depth on Gamrot, extreme depth on Stephens. We knew that fight, back to front, upside down, left to right. I could still debate that fight with anyone in the world on an extremely deep level for hours. Line them up and I'll debate anyone about that fight. The point I'm trying to make is, gotta have conviction in your decisions, because having conviction in our decisions and trusting the process results in us making profits most weeks. We didn't make a profit last week, but we're profitable in July. We're 3-1 this month. If I could go 3-1 every month, I'd take that right now. And the point I'm trying to make is, when we win, fights tend to play out almost exactly how we thought they would. Duplessis was an easy win, Poirier, relatively easy win. Jennifer Maia, an easy win. We lose on Stephens, but it wasn't like Gamrot systematically, picked Stephens apart and outclassed him for 3 rounds. If that happened, I'd be a little bit more concerned, because then I'd be like, well, our research was way off. Like, the research didn't show the fight would play out like that. He just got caught, guys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, don't sweat it. You can't expect to win every bet. And I think a lot of the time, because of how well we've done this year, when we do lose, I think people overreact a little bit. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where fucking guy got taken down and caught in a cage fight to the death against a really, really skilled professional athlete. Like, it's gonna happen. If you can't rationalize that, you kind of need to learn how to, because it is gambling. A lot of crazy shit can happen. So yeah, I think exploring that theory of right and wrong is really interesting, because we've won plenty of bets, over the last couple of months. We've won a lot more than we've lost, you can see. But, I wouldn't say I was 100% right, to bet on fucking Jennifer Maia last week. I wouldn't say I was right. Because, both girls clashed heads, right? And Jessica I had a really bad cut on her forehead, which probably influenced the judges, to be honest with you, and contributed to Jennifer Maia winning a 30-27 decision. What happens if Maia's head would have got cut like that in that clash of heads instead of Jessica I's? Maybe Jennifer Maia would have lost the decision there. So, was I right to bet Jennifer Maia? No. It's just the way the fucking cards fell that night, man. I know I'm probably droning on a little bit. It's pretty late, actually, when I'm recording this. I'm trying to get a lot of work done before travelling. But just thought it was an interesting concept to explore, because I do hate it when people say you were wrong or you were right. Because from my perspective, there's no such thing as right or wrong in sports betting or gambling. There's only strong positions where you have a good risk to reward ratio, or weak positions where you don't have a good risk to reward ratio. And I'd like to think every single bet we have ever is always a strong position with a good risk to reward ratio. And I don't say that to be kind of like cocky or stubborn or pig-headed. I say that because I would be pretty shit at my job if we spent 1 to 2 hours to research every single fight on a UFC card, to then have bets which weren't a good risk to reward ratio. It's kind of like if we were placing bets that had a bad risk to reward ratio, what the fuck were we watching for 1 to 2 hours when we did the fight research? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? Like, when I say we never place weak bets, it's not because I'm like cocky or ignorant or anything like that. It's because we put the work in to make sure that we don't put our money in bad positions. I hope that makes sense anyway. You guys guess what I'm saying. Get what I'm saying even. Let's move on. So obviously we didn't have any tight bets for last week. But tight bets are doing alright in a little bit of an uptrend here. So now let's explore the lab bets. So if we go take a look at the lab, we can see that if we scroll down, we didn't have any over-under bets last week. There weren't really any over-unders that I liked. We are up a little bit on over-unders this month. Obviously, we hit the under 3.5 rounds in the Poirier versus McGregor fight. This profitability chart hasn't been updated yet, but it will be at the end of the month. Hopefully, we can dig up some more over-unders on this week's card. In terms of the even money bets, like we said at the beginning of the video, it was a little bit of a strange card where 10 fights on the card, 8 of the fights feature heavy favourites. Didn't have as many even money fights on the card as I would have liked. Of course, the even money betting experiment that we've got here is where, we pick a winner in every single fight, and the even money odds range from 1.65 odds right up to 2.30. With the logic being that no matter what mathematical edge the bookies may have, our knowledge of the sport, our fight research, and our ability to gamble effectively will outperform the bookies on bets like this. And of course, the profitability chart shows the bets in this even money odds range are profitable for us. We only had 2 last weekend, and kind of went dog or pass on both of them. So we went with Marion Renault and Sergey Morozov. Obviously 1-1 on those 2 bets for a small profit, which was nice, which takes us to 4 and 3 on even money bets this month for a slight profit. I think we're up about a unit on these even money bets this month, and I'm hoping we get a good amount of even money bets coming up on the remaining events in July to hopefully make this chart pop up a little bit, which would be very nice. But a profitable night on even money bets, which is all gravy. So main event picks very, very similar to the even money bets, where I force myself to pick a winner in the main event of every single UFC event. This is the only actual type of bet on the website which is obviously at a loss, and I think it's because I'm obviously forced to place bets that I wouldn't usually like to place, which I'm also forced to place bets that I wouldn't usually place on even money. But I think the difference is, because the bets in the even money experiment are always around that even money odds range, you're always getting that 1-to-1 payoff for the bets. If I do go on if I do take losses on the even money bets on fights where I just don't feel that confident either way is not catastrophic because you're only down a unit. The problem with the main event picks where I'm forced to place bets is if I take a loss on someone like, for example, like Kevin Holland. Like, I never would have. Well, actually, that's not the best example. See if I can find another one. Okay, that's the best example I can think of. Curtis Blades 5.0 to beat Derek Lewis at odds of 1.25. I never would have placed that bet ever. Never would have placed that. But because I'm forced to under the the kind of rules of this experiment, that puts a huge dent in our profitability chart. Is one of those things, right? But we did have a little winner on Makhachev, 5 units, 1.17. We are actually having a good month on these so far, with Poirier coming through for us as well. So this chart should tick up a little bit when it improves in July, or maybe not. Maybe we fuck it up and take losses on the next 2 events. But anyway, main event picks, the only type of bet that isn't profitable on the site. And yeah, man, it's I'm going to keep it going for a little bit longer. I'm going to keep this experiment running for a little bit longer, see if we can turn it profitable. But we shall see. And then the final bet that we need to talk about in this video is prop bets. So if we take a look at props, we went 1 and 3 for an overall profit of 1 unit. So Stevens win by knockout, that missed wide. Rodolfo Vieira to win by decision. That may have not actually been that far away from winning. Obviously got a submission win in round 3, so that wasn't actually that far away from cashing for us. Although the first 2 rounds were pretty close. Not sure how not sure how you're watching. Not sure how you score those first 2 rounds, Percy, if you're watching. But Vieira by decision, that wasn't a million miles away from hitting. Gabriel Benitez to win by knockout at TKO, that missed wide. And Rodrigo Nascimento to win by knockout at TKO 4.0 put us in profit for the night. Unit of profit. So very, very nice for the prop bets. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it for this video. So on the whole, overall, not a bad night for us. We made a profit on live bets, profit on even money bets, profit on prop bets, and we took a loss on the loose bets. So not too bad, man. It's one of those things. Obviously, we can't win everything every week, but we do our best, and we obviously make a profit overall most weeks. So yeah, man, pretty good. Obviously disappointing that Stevens lost, but can't win them all. July has been a good month for us so far, and we go again this week. It's a decent event this week, Dillashaw versus Sandhagen. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I am going to go record some breakdown videos now and then get ready to travel to my holiday tomorrow. Thanks for all your support. Thank you for watching. Have a great week, and I'll do my best to bring you guys as much content this week as possible from hopefully the sunny mountains and sunny beaches of North Wales. So love you, boys. Again, sorry that things are going to be a little bit disrupted this week. I'm not going to be online as much as usual, but then for the week after, we'll get back to live streams every day. Breakdown videos out nice and early, and let's keep this money train going. 2021's been a great year for us so far, and hopefully we can keep the profits coming this weekend. So thank you for watching, boys. Love you all. Take care. I'll see you all very soon.